Hello and welcome to the Behind Closed Doors podcast. My name is Alicia Aberley and I'm so grateful that you have joined us in this space. Behind Closed Doors is all about the types of conversations that we only usually have with our best friend, our partner, our counselor, our coach. And sometimes it's the conversations that we don't actually have with anybody else at all. The women that are interviewed in this space are all women that are making a difference to the planet. They're women that are inspiring and empowering. The intention is that you too will feel inspired and empowered by these conversations. So grab a cup of your favorite drink, pop your feet up, and enjoy this episode of Behind Closed Doors. Today's guest is a gifted intuitive coach, spiritual teacher, and a breakthrough trainer who comes from a long line of New Zealand Maori Shaman and has gifts in seeing into the non-physical world. His own struggles have brought him to the edge of his own life, and his subsequent journey of embracing both the dark and light within has led him to understanding that with love, we can come home to all of who we are. Together with his wife, Kate, they are known as Australasia's #1 transformational leadership couple and produce the world's biggest personal development summit, collaborating annually with over 100 of the greatest thought leaders of our generations. I am so excited to welcome you today, Henare. Thank you for joining us in this space.
As a Kiwi, it's hard to hear that because we don't usually say the things that we do.
I love reading bios.
If all my family saw that now, they would. If all my mum and my dad and my sisters and my brothers, they would go, "What? Who's that guy?"
Oh, it's always nice to read those parts of us, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it's new for me because for me and Kate, for many years, we didn't tell people what we did through that Kiwi. Like people would hear about us through whispers, and we wouldn't tell people that we had been voted into the TL Transformational Leaders Council, that we're having conversations with Jack Canfield personally. We just wouldn't do it because we thought if we did, we would lump ourselves in with all those other people that are trying to show the shiny image. And thank you, because only recently have we decided that sometimes you got to own what you've done, like own it. Like if you don't own it, then who's gonna? If you don't own it, then nobody else will. So that's the first time I've heard my bio in that way and just sat with it. So thank you. I feel privileged and honoured. But here's the thing: with my mum and dad from Harakeke Flaxmere, my cousins, they were like, "Bro, what's that about?" So I appreciate both sides of it.
Yeah, thank you for joining me in this space. I feel like it's a really beautiful progression on from the interview that I did with Kate. So really excited to dive deep with you today.
Cool.
So usually, thank you. So usually I like to run with 3 topics that we can bounce off with each other. And we talked about this beforehand, before we press record. And so the decision was made that today we're not going to run that way. We're just going to go on wherever we are meant to go and whichever tangent. I feel like you have so much juiciness in your space with Kate and so much juiciness as a man. Like I admire the things I've read and where you've come from as a human to where you're at right now and how sacred your relationship is and the things that you've overcome in that space. So I guess today I would love for us to explore that side of you that's, I guess, been through the, what would you say, like the harder times and everything you've been through within yourself as a human to get where you are today. So where would you like to start in that space?
Well, I'd like to start saying that I have been with Kate in relationship for 14 years. We're coming up to our 10-year wedding anniversary. I have been not only a father to my son Zion, but a stepfather to my daughter Bailey. And I think with all the accolades and everything that we've done and how our business is going, those things there are the most precious to me. For when I finally pass from this earth, hopefully at an old age, I don't know though, that will matter the most. I know where the business is going and I know that we're reaching into the clouds and creating all of this cool stuff, but it will really be seeing that my children and wife were fully catered to and honoured and respected as human beings. That is where the work really exists, away from the spotlight, even away from here. Like, it's easy to do this. I find this easy. Like I've done hundreds of interviews. I've interviewed people have interviewed me. This is easy. But when I'm out having lunch and Bailey and Zion are sitting there, it's making sure that they're included and we don't dominate the conversation. So a lot of the times I've practiced, because with speakers and trainers, we're always talking. So in a practice in my home, I'm practicing, and it's an ongoing work, to shut the fuck up and listen to the kids. And so when we go out as a family, you know how adults sort of start talking. What we make sure that we do is that the children are always included. And if they can have most of the conversation, that's precious to me and Kate. So a lot of the times when we're out, my practice is to shut the fuck up and let the kids just talk about what they want to talk about. Because that matters, that they have a voice away from the lights. Like I've got 2 lights here and we're interviewing, because those things that matter are away from our social persona and our training persona, or my training persona, are the things that really tell and show how a person shows up in their personal life.
And I guess this is your story. So from what I've seen and what I've read in the social media space, it hasn't always been that way. And there's been things that you and Kate have been through. And I've read beautiful posts from you about being a dad and the challenges that have come up there. I know there's been some deep wounds from what I've read as well. I'd love to go there with you.
Awesome. What do you want to know?
All right, I'll chuck it out there. So I feel like this is something for women to really feel into. So I read somewhere, and I talked briefly to Kate about this, that there was a point in your relationship where you knew for you and Kate to go to the next level that you had to be totally honest with her about something that had happened in your relationship. And for you, it was more about knowing where you could go rather than what you could lose. And I don't know all the full details in that space, but I know you came out and said that, you know, there was a big thing for you in that space, and the truth and the honesty there. And I feel like that was a big turning point for you in your relationship and in your life. So I'd love to go there with you.
Yeah. So I used to play basketball professionally, and that world was very exciting. Lots of masculine men fighting, playing basketball. There was a lot of women around. There was a lot of alcohol, not so much drugs, but a lot of alcohol, and a lot of partying, and a lot of friendships, and hanging out with All Blacks and hanging out with cool people. And so as I was transitioning out of that space, I met Kate. And without telling her later on that I had, while we were still seeing each other, been sleeping with other women, I realized, I was sitting there one time and I looked at her and I realized, shit, if I don't come clean with that, then it's always going to be something in the background. So I turned to her, and with not really knowing what to say, I told her the truth. You know, when we were together, I was seeing this woman, and I'd slept with them. And Kate was majorly upset. She got up and she stormed away. And I was in 2 places. One, a complete breakdown and revealing something that was hidden. And I was sitting there, and basically my body was shaking and I was sweating. And on the other side of it, I heard freedom. I heard if I couldn't reveal this to her, this secret, then it would always plague me and allow me to escape by justifying that I had to do it because I was a man or something like that. So she stormed off, and I was sitting there like just totally at a loss, because we had, at that stage, we had brought properties together. We were running a property business. We had children, all these invested things in relationship. And I sat there and I was like, man, I'm going to lose it all, or I can gain it all. And so she came back later on and she was upset, but she said, you know what? I hear what you wanted to create with me. I hear you wanting to create a future that is filled with love and joy. And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to create that. And so we re-established a new relationship, closing the door on that and opening a new door into whatever it could be for us to come together. Now, the story wasn't pretty after that. For the next 10 years, I had to live into constantly being reminded to give up, constantly being reminded to come come truthful, and constantly reminded that what I had created has and continued to be work. So when you're talking about all of that, contradictions in being a spiritual teacher, in that, like I got to a stage where I was charging people $25,000 a piece to come and get coaching transformationally. We lived on this hill in Havelock North, the house, $1 million. It was making a lot of money, and it was just flowing in so quickly. But one night, I remember that I just run a training with people, 16 people, I think, or no, 6 people who had paid $25,000 each to come and run a training. And I was like, wow, yeah, look at me. Whoa, I got the suit on, look at all this. But in that moment, something arose in me from the dark, the other side of me, and I ended up losing my emotional hold on the persona that I had put out as an image. So within half an hour, I had the police on the doorstep, and I was getting marched out of my own home. And I looked at this was probably 5 years after I had made that commitment to Kate, and I looked at Kate, and she was livid. She was feeling unsafe because of my reactivity as an overreactive alpha male. And I thought to myself, shit, I could lose her again. So here's the funny thing, not what wasn't funny, is that time I also had been bitten by a spider, as well as I had a couple of injuries. So as well as being kicked out of the house protection order and sleeping in my car because I was so embarrassed that the transformational teacher had fallen far, I went home to my family, Maori family, in New Zealand. They were like, typical, bro, you're still a fucking asshole. You think you're not that, you think you're all this good, but look at you now. Look. So then I went to them, I thought, shit, okay. So then I got a hotel room. And then my brother, who's he's just won the world championship kickboxing, very strong guy, comes over and starts giving me advice. And then I'm like, bro, I don't need advice. And he's like, well, look at you, you fucking transformational teacher down in the dumps. Look, and so I wasn't only getting hit by them, I had to get rushed to hospital to get the fluid of the spider taken out of me. And I felt like I had nobody. I was totally in a dip. But I remembered my commitment to Kate. And so with my tail between my legs, I went back and apologized to her and said, look, I'm committed to staying with this. And during the hospital stay, I had 2 men that were on the other side of the hospital ward, and they were both in very dire circumstances with cancer. And they started telling me they had no personal development, but they started telling me what mattered in life and what made a difference. And so I'm the transformational teacher, sitting in a bed, coming out of surgery with no family, just feeling totally wrecked, looking across at 2 old guys that had lives that were probably, not transformational. And they're telling me the best truths I ever heard. And so after that, then it was a re-establishing of living into the commitment, and then more mistakes being made consistently on the way, to then get to a space like me and Kate now are in a space of total ecstasy and joy and creativity. After now 10 years of ongoing committed work, I think I've got a PhD in relationship growth, because it was experiential at its core. And at times it was losing everything except my own physical body. And so after that, I came back into life out of all these dark spaces. And Kate said to me, could you just be normal? And I said, yeah, let's do that. And so then I started creating tangible programs and practical spirituality, because the spiritual, looking into that is endless and forever. So she said, just come back. And then I started coming back and creating programs. And me and Kate now have a really juicy, we're more giggly about confrontation, like, get the fuck out of here. And it'll be more like, oh, okay, I will get the fuck out of here then. It's jokey and more playful than it ever was. But I'm under no illusion that it took, like when people say, spirituality, spirituality at its core and depth is facing one's Darth Vader. It's facing the emperor of the empire in oneself and looking at it and going, whoa. And it's not easy. And I wouldn't encourage most people to do it without support, because it takes looking at what you think works, but on some level doesn't. And so now we're in this juicy stage. We're starting to acknowledge our accolades. We're starting to really own what we've done and still speak about experiences, but shift into the space of positive creativity, acknowledging both human aspects of the up and the down.
Yeah, nice. Thank you for sharing that. You can, yeah, go for it. Have a drink. Do what you need
to. Protein.
So you and Kate recently ran a retreat in Bali, which was something I looked at. I was at another retreat and wasn't able to make it. Dates didn't align, but I had a look at that and it sounded really interesting. How did that go?
Well, we had actually 93 people signed up for it and paid. We had over 70 come because the volcano here was starting to erupt. Yeah. So the retreat was about leadership. And we had like one of the things that we're really privileged to have in our retreats is not a specific dynamic of person. We have solo mums all the way through to, we had surgeons, SAS soldiers, police officers, doctors, lawyers, professors. And how it went was them looking at what it takes to really show up in areas that matter to them as leadership. So what we did over 5 days is explored personally for them through some of the teachings that we had, what it takes to actually step up in their own lives. And it took what we call the hero's journey. They had to really go through the plethora of what it was to be human to come out, whoa, man, I could really look at creating something new.
I've heard that it's quite an intense process that people go through in your course.
Yes. Yeah. So it's less intense than it used to be. It's based on not looking at knowledge as knowledge. It's based on looking at your own experience as a way to generate something new. So it's a lot of people come out of it and people will go, so what did you learn? And they're like, well, I learned about me.
Yeah.
When I was a school teacher, teaching children information, I noticed they would either take it on board or they wouldn't. But when I started teaching and I would put an idea in front of the children and they would explore it and they would get all excited or they'd get confronted by it, that was more experientially creative for them. So the live leadership programs are created by putting some idea that's not tangible to hold, but it's tangible enough to explore. So the people have to really push their intellect into exploring it so that they bring out something. And it involves at times being inspired, at times being confronted, at times being human. And through the process of that, they come out right, really considering what life would be for them if they were able to create new stuff.
Yeah, it's once a year, yeah?
Yeah, so we have once a year in Bali, we have the Game Changer Leadership. And this next year, it's going to be communication through leadership. So I tweak it each year. Mm-hmm. And no two seminars are ever the same. I've had a friend of ours who used to work for us, Kate Bull, and she's been to 15 of them, and she just couldn't get over that. The 15th one, the 12th, the 11th, the 8th one was always different. And she said, why do you do that? I said, because it keeps me fresh in my teaching and it allows people to explore not from a set criteria, but from a distinction that can be explored, an idea that can be explored. So next year's one, again, will be people that are coming to next year's one will get a totally new experience again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about that one. It's on my November bucket list. Yeah, just make it happen. It's nice. So, Henare, what do you think for yourself, like as a human, what's important to you besides in your family? Like I see that they're number one for you. And I guess for the way that you live as a human, like what's most important to you?
Well, good question. So we just covered that in expansion school the other day. So I have it like this. There are 4 areas that are really important to me. Number one is, and these are fluctuating areas. They're not static, but they shift depending on how the need is there. They're perfectly imbalanced. In balance, which means not in balance, out of balance. So at times I need to focus on me, the self, me as Henare. At times I need to focus on my relationship with Kate, which is marriage. Which we see this tattoo here?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, me and Kate just got it for our 10th year anniversary, and the top is me, then goes Kate, then Bailey and Zion. There's 4 lines to it. You see that?
Stunning, yeah.
As I get older, I will shift to the small one, and Zion will shift to the top one. So at the moment, I'm the top of the pyramid, but as I get older and weak and feeble and physically frail, I'll shift to the bottom, and my kids will shift up to the top. So I have the relationship to myself, which means my masculine. I like to do boxing, kickboxing, eat food, hang out with men, watch movies, do all the manly stuff, things that really still relate to me. Then I have the relationship with Kate. Like, what is it that needs to be addressed in there in my communication and our time? Like I said to her, look, I want to take you on a date on Saturday night. That needs to be. We've been so busy with business. We need to do that. Then I have a look at my relationship with the children. And then I have a look at my relationship with creativity. So these 4 things they stack and restack depending on what's needed. So recently business has been high, needed. So we've been there, but on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I've restacked myself. I've got a hotel room. I'm going to sit there, watch UFC, be naked in the room, eat all types of food, go to the gym and do some kickboxing, probably do some sparring. So and I noticed that when they're out of alignment is if I'm getting irritated or agitated at people, then that means something is not in alignment. So when it's not in alignment, I shift whatever needs to be shifted up to the top and restack them. Now, it's not a conscious thing now because I've been doing it for so long. It's an unconscious thing. But I get a sense like I've been really dedicated to the family and kids for the past, so they've been up here for the past 2 weeks. And now there's this need, I want to go and for 3 nights just sit in the hotel room and watch movies and UFC and enjoy all of that and food for 3 nights, and that will cater to that. So by doing these 4 things and restacking them consistently, the human side is that I'm taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of so that when I'm present with people or I'm in my life, whatever needs to be there and taken care of at any time is there and taken care of. Now, this is not fixed. Remember, it's permanently shifting. Some days it shifts 4 things in a day, depending on how I'm feeling. Or sometimes it might be 6 months of creativity. But I trust that through being human and irritable and annoyed and frustrated that something is not being addressed at the level to shift it to the top. And it's quite easy to see is when the negative polarity of who I am as a human being, the irritation, the frustration, all of that comes up, I know that I'm not addressing something in me that needs to be seen. Now, might not be conscious, but I know that if I haven't spent time with myself doing my manly stuff, then potentially I'm grumpy and I'm moany. That means Kate will even give me hints. Maybe it's time to, get that hotel room and do your thing, boy. And so the restacking of this for me consistently has me address what matters to me. Creativity is something that, I create programs and they're juicy and that's something I love. Research, talking to world leaders, talking to people that create programs behind the scenes, not just the Tony Robbins. Who's the guy that trained Tony Robbins? I've always been a person that wants to see behind the curtain. And so that's part of my creativity. And that's a lot of where my programs I create is taking a peek at how Tony Robbins does Tony Robbins or how it's all done in the background to actually create programs for myself and others in the world.
I feel like it's worth exploring a little bit deeper, the fact that you actually take that time out for you. Like, how many people actually take time away from their family for 3 days by themselves? I think that's so empowering. And I've seen Kate do it, and just through social media, I've seen Kate do it, take time for her. I've seen you go on overseas trips just for yourself. How did that come about for you guys to be able to, I find that so many people hold tight to each other. And hold tight to, the thought of that for some women's like, oh my God, 3 nights, what's going to happen in that space if their partner was to do that? How did you and Kate come to that agreement, I guess, that this is something that's important to you?
Good question. experimentation, playing with life, like treating life as a game to be played with to see what works. It was through constant falling over and like when me and Kate first met, she and I was very controlling. Like she couldn't go anywhere without me thinking this, and I couldn't go anywhere without thinking that. And so over 14 years, re-establishing that literally, if we don't give each other the space or the idea of freedom, we're going to restrict. Like I get in my head, I don't really own Kate, and I never will. The fact is, anytime I could or she could die, like it's just a fact of life. Hopefully not now, we pray. Hopefully it's old age. But the thing is, I could have the idea that of controlling and keeping Kate, but if she was to pass away or I was to pass away, the fact is there's no control anymore. So why not bring that in life and have to deal with why we're doing that, right? Why would I want to control a flower? I can't. I can water it. I can make sure it gets sunlight, but to control the flower is an impossibility. So just like a human, I can say nice things. I can go out to dinners with Kate, but to try and control her actually restricts energy flow, not only with our relationship, but in business. And I did that for 5 years. I created the business. I'm the transformational teacher. I'm doing this. And when Kate would speak, I would shut her down. And I noticed not only did that make me feel more powerful, but it made her feel less powerful. And so I had to look at that dominator in me and say, hey, look, if we're dominating, like in basketball and boxing and with our wife, we're restricting the energy flow, the correlation of love and joy between us. And in doing that, our business wasn't growing. Our relationship wasn't growing. So experimentation and seeing that wasn't working then had us then create systems that did work. And the more I stepped back and let Kate, or left Kate to be herself, the more connected we became, the more loving, the more appreciative. Now, like sometimes appreciation to me, when she's had enough of me, she does this, like fuck off, like literally fuck off. But it's not with so much force anymore towards, like the other day I was getting smarted and she picked up Zion's knit comb and threw it at me across the room. Now, if it hit me, it would have hurt. But it was like, whoa, shit, this woman is powerful. I better take care of her. I better honor her. I better appreciate her, because I won't have, like I go to bed at night and I think, man, how precious. I get to spoon this beautiful creature. I get to put my hands and grab, like I love, she's very curvy, and I put my hands all over her curves and she lets me do that. And it's just, I won't have that forever. Like I'm 41 now. If I do live healthily, I may live to 95 maybe, but I'm nearly halfway through my life. So all these lovely things are more in appreciation now. And when the storms come, appreciating that too. Like being joyful when there's a storm, not trying to stop it. We can't stop the storms coming, so we can't stop them in our lives. Being present to, hey, man, I'm in a downturn. I'm in a non-creative time. I'm in a chocolate eating. I'm in a self-loathing. I'm gonna learn to be in that and just appreciate that as well. And that's what people get mixed up in life. They think, oh, I'll just keep creating joy. But joy is when you've broken your leg as well. Joy is when you've eaten 3 apple pies and two ice creams. And the appreciation of that then is a nice rebalancing. And that's what we've practiced and continue to practice, is even when it's not working, we practice that there can be joy in it too.
I know that in the conversation I had with Kate, that you give each other room to grow and encourage each other to explore different spaces, which can push the boundaries sometimes for the norm. And I guess just leading on for where we're at here. How do you inspire her in her growth when there's edges to push that most couples would find really uncomfortable? Like, I know that you have conversations, I don't know what the conversations are, but I know you have conversations in that space where it's like so much freedom. So just as an example, what's coming to my head is that often we don't share with our partners the things that we're thinking. So we might have, this is just my example, not the example. Sometimes we might have an attraction to somebody else, but we won't go there in the conversation because we feel like it's going to do damage. Yet I feel like you and Kate will explore anything. How do you hold space for that? You know, there's no control. There seems to be no control in that. It's like anything is out on the table. How did that come for you guys? And how do you, I guess, encourage and embody that space for the two of you?
We think of it as an experiment. Like, this is how I think of it. Most people, or from what I see, live in a domain of what they know. So I had a conversation with a systems theorist, and this is a little bit off track, but I'll come back to it.
I like off track. It's fine.
So a systems theorist who I had to talk to said that the people that have the most flexibility in life are people that can cross domains of understanding. He said, if you look into nature, nature is literally and factually interconnected. There is interconnections with the water, the lions, the zebras, everything. If you look at the actual structure, he called it the fractal structure of life, is connected. Like, that's a law of life. The thing is as human beings, if we try to box ourselves into a domain, like I'm just a CrossFitter, or I'm just a basketballer, or I only do this, what we do is we restrict our ability to be flexible like nature. So me and Kate have domains that we master. Mine is the transformational domain. I've mastered that. I've been doing it for 10 years and been able to work with amazing people. So it's like, well, I kind of got that. Like, put me in a seminar in front of people, and it's not hard for me to do. But what is a domain that I'm confronted by, right? What, like, something that scares me. So me and Kate are always considering domains that are not easy to go into, and then we will go and explore it. So any domain, whether it be business, whether it be anything like surfing, we won't say no to it. We'll consider doing it, and if it inspires us, we'll do it even more. But the thing is, we don't stay in the new domain either. We let that go and then explore. So over time, why me and Kate are so flexible, and probably me especially, is we're always exploring things that have confronted us, including what you said, sexuality. We thought, man, that's a domain. We've been together a certain amount of time. Let's see what comes up for us if we explore that. And so we've explored that, and we've had opportunities to have, it's not something we continue to explore, but we've had opportunities to really see if our relationship, really test how strong are we when there's another person there. Like, how strong are we when these things are really there, and how do we show up? So not only in the sexual, but also in the business, children, family, exploring different domains to see how we show up. And once we show up and are confronted ourselves by what we're like, oh, I'm a little kid, I don't know how to deal with this, then what happens is it becomes an asset that we can use to help people.
Yeah, beautiful. Actually, on memory, Kate did mention something in our conversation, which has been put out in the podcast about an experience. There was something in that with sexuality, and she went to a dancing class, and there was some not a want to be with that person, but some attraction with another man, and she was able to have that conversation with you. I really love because I said to her, how did he go with that? Like, how does that work? And she just said that you give her a space to explore the things within her. And she also mentioned that you have I don't know if it's a scale where it's like an agreement where something's too far and something's okay. And if you were to cross over that scale, I'm not really articulating it very well. Maybe you could go in and articulate that a bit better for me. Yeah,
I can get what you're saying. So this is a great conversation. So with Kate, she has a scale. And when I go to do things with her, whether it be business or relationship, children, sexuality, surfing, whatever it is, I learn to be in that scale. Me, I don't have a scale. I go in there and I want to know what it's like. I want to be I want to experiment with life to be able to go into there and then find out what is the experience of it, so that I can be present to the teaching of it afterwards. So to really clarify that, when me and Kate are doing anything like that, the scale that I agree to with her is what she needs to have for me to be present to the relationship. for me, a lot of the times, and it confronts her a lot of times, is I don't have a scale. I want to go into this, and find out what it is. Now, and I know, if you don't mind, I know that and I want to talk about sexuality with human beings.
Yeah, go for
it. Sexuality is a very touchy subject with human beings. Sexuality, for instance, I had in Ubud when I was living there were men running tantric retreats that were doing things to women that seemed okay in tantra, but when I heard about them, it was way off base. Women being de-armored and being free of this, it was just not cool. And I saw women in their 20s struggling with the concept of being de-armored by a 55-year-old man so that she frees. And I didn't have the courage at the time to say to her, because if I told her that maybe he was doing it for his own sexual pleasure, then it would have fractionated and she would have had to take on board the total devastation of being basically molested by a guy who was pretending to be So sexuality is a very, very touchy subject. So when I explored it with Kate and for myself, I noticed as a man, like 14 years together, I'm still looking at chicks. I'm like, fuck. Like I was coaching 95% of my women I was coaching, I was very clear. And then I'd go out and me and Kate weren't having sex for 2 weeks, and I'd be like looking at a chick and desiring her and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, man, what the fuck's going on here? I'm the teacher, I'm meant to have that sorted. So what I did is went away firstly and researched that there are 3 things that we don't have control over. And if we try to control them with spirituality, with personal development, we're fucked. 1 is sexuality. 2 is shelter and protection. So procreation is sexuality, care and comfort. We don't have control over that. Like there's a book called After the Ecstasy Comes the Laundry that documents Zen masters, spiritual teachers, Sufi masters doing things sexually that was not part of the equation. Even Krishnamurti, who is one of the greatest spiritual teachers of all time, there's just a book come out, The Dark Side of Krishnamurti, written by a little girl that watched him sleep with her mother and her mother sleep with him. So, and then they had Zen masters go from Japan, create ashrams, and they were sleeping with all the beautiful. I've experienced that myself as a teacher. I'll be sitting there and I'll be teaching and all this wonderful knowledge would come out. And I noticed certain women in the audience getting attracted to this type of power, the dark side of the spiritual teacher. And that was one of the things that really confronted me. And so I had, during my spiritual teachings and trainings, I would get a lot of attention from all sorts of women. And Kate was, oh, this is not really cool. And I was, I'm sitting there thinking, no, it's okay. But I realized that area for a man is a no-go. So, meaning that I really don't, and I haven't seen a man be trustworthy in the sexual domain at all.
I agree. In an experience as a woman and in my experience with male friends, I agree. And that's something I've been curious about. So I'm interested to hear more, 100%. Yeah.
So when women come to me now, I, especially in transformational trainings and teachings, I don't touch them. Because it can create an unnecessary intimate link between us. Mm-hmm. And I've been caught in it before. I was training some woman, 24-year-old woman, beautiful, and I got emotionally attached to them. We weren't sleeping together, but there was something going on, and Kate was like, what the fuck's going on here? And so over a course of learning about sexuality, I actually honor the woman by not going into the domain of sexuality with them. Like if me and Kate as a couple want to go out and explore and even she wants to go and talk to men and out there, yeah, we make an agreement away from the transformational space. But when we're with people in trainings and coachings, I'm very clear now that I don't step into the sexual domain at all, even in conversation with women, because I don't trust myself and my biology is predisposed to, I don't try and beat that. Nobody and no man, no spiritual teacher, even Jesus was apparently, who slept with Mary Magdalene, who apparently, Even if he couldn't do it, none of us fuckers can. So what I do is, like today I haven't, like me and Kate, I haven't had sex. I'm looking at this beautiful woman, and she's looking at me, and I haven't had sex with her today. And I noticed there was a woman in the gym, and it was all sweaty. And I noticed my attention is drawn to that. Now, in the transformational space, I will be very clear. But out in life, I'm around in this, and I noticed she was coming closer and unboxing, and I look sweaty and I'm strong. And so we're dealing with biology. So I come home and I say to Kate, hey, guess what? I saw a woman. I was kind of, the lusts were coming out. Can we go for a date? And I really need to honor you. And then, we need to get it. I need to bring my... And she was like, yes, you honor me first, and then I will attribute the... And I was like, for all our women out there, I think if you're going to any sexual discipline, go to another female. My encouragement is always go to a female first. They have a deep connection to the womb. They have a deep connection to life. I mean, there are certain females out there that are too masculine, and they can manipulate, but majority-wise, like tantric woman teachers, hallelujah for them. And any man that steps into the sexual domain thinking he's conquered it is untruthful. In my research, in my own experience, and in biology of being a human being, nobody can beat the system of life, so don't try it. Like, okay, I'm going to make the sky red because I decide to. No, the sky's blue, and it would be red if there's a volcano. That's how it works. Sexuality works the same way. 14 billion years of natural progression, and we try to control it with our mind. It doesn't work. What I didn't include in my masculine man's weekend is sometimes if I need to get that energy out and Kate's not there, I enjoy the full plethora of vigorous masturbation at times for myself.
Great. You never have to apologize in this space. We can go there. Yeah. I'm happy to talk about masturbation. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm apologizing to not just to you, but to all the women out there that have been controlled and manipulated by men. Mm. It's a deep apology. We think we know what we're doing, but we don't. Yeah. And what the result of doing that to women has turned women's sexuality inward to become something that is frowned upon in society. And I see women now coming out and being expressive and showing their sexuality and showing their power and their mana, and I think it's a great thing. And I'm in full support of that, as long as in the embrace of that, the woman still embraces the yin and the yang, the man as well. All right, soldier boy, come lie on the bed, sit down, let's have some sex, let's talk, that sort of stuff. Because what I've noticed is through history, if the masculine man, the alpha male, gets rejected, he then forms armies. You notice like Alexander the Great was sexually repressed. Hitler was sexually repressed. And that repression then becomes energy to try and fight against things. And so we call it in the Maori culture the kuia. The woman goes from the siren, using her sexuality to embrace, but also sometimes to destroy men if they get too. And then when she grows into it, she can make love to a man, but she can also hold her own, the kuia. And we're seeing a lot of women now. Gal Gadot, the Wonder Woman actress, real kuia energy. The director of Wonder Woman, and we're seeing women's roles not only be sexual but powerful too. The latest movie, The Justice League, which I love, is about Superman in that, but actually the linchpin in that movie, the central figure is Wonder Woman. The men come around to her, honouring her and following her, even Superman. So we're seeing a shift. And so in sexuality, I think my suggestion is don't let men teach women about sexuality at all. The only guy I've seen do it clean is a guy named Matthew Hussey, but he keeps women at a distance and talks to them. He's the cleanest I've seen out there. Other than that, I think women really have a good grip on sexuality, and men are more intimidated by that because you guys have the power. Like if we can't get in, we're not in. So sexually, for me, is honouring that and not trying to manipulate my own sexual energy and control it, because then that becomes like sexual repression. But just tell Kate about what's going on, or just soothe my own sexual embraces as a man, as a human being, and then move on, get creative again.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing in that space, and I have a couple of questions for you. So firstly, I love that. Yeah, go for it. You just drink away. We had a conversation, just to the audience, we had a conversation before we started about the noise for iTunes. And so the whole drink thing in this is, Henare asking permission.
And that was when you, like, when I got on the call and you requested potentially that I didn't do this, I wanted to honor that, not get defensive.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, when you said that this wasn't working, instead of getting, oh, well, it's going to work, I wanted to honor you by just saying, okay, I'll put those down. Because I felt that honoring you, and not only as a woman, but as a mother, as a business person, was the most gracious thing I could do. That's why I made an agreement not to do it. And then I said, do you mind? Because I want to honor that agreement that we had as well. And you said yes. So I was like, yay, I'm thirsty. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I would have not drunk it if you said, hey, look, it's not appropriate, because that's honoring. And that's what I practice with my wife. I mean, 90% of the time, sometimes she irritates the fuck out of me, but 90% of the time now, honoring her and really acknowledging her. She set this whole thing up. I did nothing. And she said to me, you really need to get onto the Zoom stuff. And I said, oh, please, can you help me? And as she was setting up, I was patting her back, thanking her, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah.
Honoring, we love that. Us women love that. And I think it goes both ways. It definitely goes both ways. And usually I'd be like, yeah, go for it. Keep your headphones in, drink away, do what you want. It's just the sound's really shitty sometimes. So no, I'm happy. And I love bringing it in too, because it's real. It's an element. So drink away. Please just don't put headphones in. Just kidding. I want to ask you, I find it really empowering as a woman, and I find it a little bit uncomfortable as well, that, and that's why I want to go there with this, because I feel like it's a growth edge for me, and I feel like it would be a growth edge for a lot of women as well. So the fact that you can actually acknowledge that you have physical feelings for another woman at the gym, and you have the comfortability to go home to Kate and share that with her, like I find that super empowering. I imagine it's not always been like that. So, you know, I guess in that space, what stops you? What stops you from taking action? Like, there's no reason that you couldn't have seen this girl at the gym this morning and had an attraction, and she's attracted to you, and, you know, you just hook up for an hour and Kate would never know. And I know that stuff goes on a lot. What stops you in your space? Like, what's your growth been to stop you? And I think we've covered it off basically, but I'd like to go a bit deeper in that. What stops you from taking action on that and being comfortable to go and tell Kate and asking for what you want then from her?
Firstly, like we talked, oh, sorry, you've just popped off the screen. Can you still see me?
I can see you, yeah. Yep.
Something's popped up. Okay. So firstly is what we've just talked about, honoring what we've created together. Like, there's in the world of saying, hey, let's do this, and then not honoring that as a stand. So if I do that and I honor Kate by sticking to what I say, she trusts me. And building trust is important. Then if we wanted, and without going into detail, me and Kate have, I won't tell you the details, but we've explored the sexual realm in depth. Like, we've explored it, not as like, oh, we're swingers or none of that. We didn't explore it like that. We explored it as an opportunity to see how we could come together. It was really confronting. But we decided, without going in, I won't go into detail, that would be a domain that we would explore. What that did is brought us closer together in what worked and didn't work in our sexuality together. Now, I wouldn't encourage people to explore that, especially if you're in a new relationship or anything like that. But what I discovered is women are more free when there's no men around. Like, they don't need the penis. They don't give a shit about the penis at all. And so it made me think that I'm not necessary in the relationship with Kate. We create an agreement to be together as human beings. And in that sexual domain, that's what I discovered. And that out of that came for me, oh, wow, I honor Kate for being with me. I honor myself by talking to Kate about things first. And I make sure that I hold myself to that, because if I don't, then trust gets eroded And she's always questioning what I'm doing, where I'm going, and I don't want that for her. How much energy does that take? That takes away from our creativity in business. If she's thinking about, is he doing this, is he doing that, then she's lost all the juice to create programs, to be there as a mother. All of that is the clutter, linguistic clutter in the mind that restricts her creating. This is one of the things that we do in our programs is, if people are restricted in actioning things, usually it's the hidden or unseen or unspoken things that are swirling around that cause their creative juices to be eaten and sucked away. So it's just basically what we did with you. When I got on the call, you made some requests, and instead of being the alpha man, which I am, like you put me in a gym, in a boxing gym, I can roll with the best of them. But the thing is, I made a request, please, and I said, yes, okay, cool. You made a request, and I thought, right, I'm going to honour this woman for being and making requests of me, rather than getting all up on my high horse. I'm going to get down on the ground on my knees and say, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you on this call today. See, the spiritual teacher always has to stay low. Mostly low. The valley is where the water is. Everyone wants to get to the mountain, but the valley is where the valley was as well. And so with me, I have a personality that goes to the mountain. And the practice over the years is make sure that you never forget the valley as well. The water stays low. The spiritual teacher stays low. So even though we have honouring the accolades that we've done, honouring you by who you are as a human being to me, and honouring that these things just didn't work and now they work, means that you are also giving great advice to me. Great advice. And I honour you for that, because if I didn't listen, maybe the sound quality wouldn't be as clear as it is now.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Would you have got, in the past, would you have got agitated by that request?
Of course.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I can see how that's such a beautiful thing for you then, in that honouring space. So it's such a simple request, isn't it? Just to find that you would be triggered by that is, I find that interesting as well.
You see, I've always, in this time of my life, I feel like the triggering of something is the opportunity for growth.
100%.
People think they grab the concept of I'm triggered and they resist the triggering. For me, it's like, man, if I can honour what's being requested and not make it about me, then maybe we can just be humans together.
Yeah.
My fundamental teachings is that it doesn't matter what we create in the world. You have a heart that beats, I have a heart. You have a brain, I have a brain. How do we rank that? Like, is your brain 20 times bigger than mine? Maybe it's bigger than me. Oh, we can't. The thing is, accolades and all that stuff are wonderful to create, but the fundamental structure of you being you, because you have a nose and eyes and lips and teeth. Some people don't have teeth, so we won't say that. Sorry for you people that don't have teeth. And a tongue and a gut, that's more precious, because without those things first, we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it was just making sure that I honoured you, honoured myself by following through on your request to not have that.
Thank you. Yeah, so cool. Such a great conversation and great areas that we've gone into. The other thing I wanted to ask you, for those that aren't watching the video, and I was just having another drink. That's so funny. You talked about before, and I know, well, for me, it's more of a newer concept, so not something I'd heard of until this year. And I know that there will be some viewers on the line that also haven't heard of it before. I would love for you to just share a little bit about the de-armoring.
So I heard I was sitting with a young lady a while ago, and she was young, she was innocent. And a lot of women that go to Ubud are beautiful, young and innocent. And she'd signed up to a male tantric teacher's 4-day intensive. And in the process of the end of that, they had to open their legs up, and he put 2 fingers in them, de-armoring. By placing his fingers into the vagina, he said to them that he was taking or doing something to them that would free them from their sexual repression. When she told me that, my heart nearly broke for her. And I realized, the man in me, like if I had seen that, if I had been there, it would have been even though the woman may not have liked it, but it would have been a defending of the woman's honor. And not the spiritual teacher, but the shamanic teacher would have come out. Because there are two types of spiritual teachers. One, the Eckhart Tolle, the Buddha. And then there's a second spiritual teacher, the Bodhidharma, which is the aggressive, strong man. So what he would have seen from me would have been the shamanic spiritual teacher. On the level of spirituality, loving the man for being there, but defending something fundamentally human. And so I didn't have the heart to tell her at the time, because if I had explored that with her, it would have fractured her. She would have had to, you could see she was dealing with the fact that he had done something to her. Further, if I had said, no, that wasn't right, I would have seen her really break, and it wasn't my place to. We were in a social setting. So I just listened to her, and my face might have contorted at times. And then I said, oh, okay. And I left it at that. And that's why I want a lot of women to step up, and to take, like in Hollywood at the moment, a lot of women are saying, hey, to get this director, I had to sleep with the director. And people are making a stand for things that just aren't humanly working. I think Kevin Spacey's been called out for his homosexual enticement of young men. And we need to be accountable. I was accountable. When I was violent, I went to the police. I was taken to the police station. When I was, I have to be accountable for that, because that's something I did. So with my encouragement to the woman out there is that if more women are standing up and creating shining light, then they can not only guide these young women into safe spaces of sexuality if they need to, they can actually say, hey man, no man can deal with your penis, back off. Like literally back off. You have testosterone that's proven to course through your veins and do weird things in your mind, create weird fantasies. You need to leave these women alone. And in doing that, hopefully masculine men can step up to these men and say, hey, sit the fuck down. If you need to go there and fucking tag one out, masturbate, get the energy out, and then let's talk. And it creates the shamanic space of spirituality is a strong leadership. Eckhart Tolle is a soft, gentle one, and I love being around him. But at this turbulent, chaotic time in the world, we also need strong spiritual teachers, women and men. The kuya, which is the grandmother, to sit, who can make love vigorously and can stand with the alpha male and not give in, like Wonder Woman. Best analogy is Wonder Woman. Doesn't even think anything about sex, would have sex with a man. It's just fine. I want pleasure, so give me pleasure. And then she would fight with the sword. So these types of practices, tantra, hidden, I would suggest my recommendation is always go to a woman and then have fun with men. If choose a man for sexual pleasure or for companionship, because that's what he's there for.
Yeah, great words of advice. Thank you for that. Thanks for sharing a bit more info in that space. So this has been fun, and I could keep chatting to you. Yeah, go for it. That's going to be a joke now. I'm gonna put that up. Have a drink, Henare. I'll be writing that on your post. Have another drink. Is there anything that you feel would be, anything that you feel is important that you would like to share before we finish up today?
Yeah, I would. I would like to say, and this is from a spiritual perspective, every single person listening to this is more important than they think they are. Not important in the fact of, hey, I'm important because I've done things. The literal fact that your eyeballs shine the sun, now this is a koan, you're going to have to really think about this, are more precious than diamonds. The fact that we have eyeballs that literally derive light, sunlight into our eyeballs where we can see the multiplicity of colors is more precious than diamonds, and you own that. Now, if you don't have eyes, let's hope that you have the senses of the nose to fully bring in the odors of food and perfumes. You own that. And if you don't have the nose, then let's hope you've got the ears that bring in auditory sounds of beauty or destruction, but you own that. If you don't have the ears, let's hope you have the skin that brings in the pleasures of touch and vibration. What I want to say is you're so important because you're here and you matter. And Don't let anybody tell you, and don't even let yourself tell you that you don't matter. Because if your eyes shine the sun, without you, the sun doesn't shine. There is no shining sun without you seeing it. Now, that's a koan that I'd like to leave with you today, and then how important you are. And just being here is important because it's juicy.
Yeah,
Like,
we love the juice. Thank you so much for joining us in this space. And before we go, where can our listeners and viewers find you?
So the best place at the moment, we have Expansion School, and they can come into that for 14 days for $14 just to check it out. Now in there, you won't find a more supportive structure I'm going to make a big claim, in the world. For $14 for 14 days, and then it rolls over to $59 if you want to stay. It has trainings like this. It has experts. This morning, we just interviewed a relationship expert who has worked with Gwyneth Paltrow and the leader of Coldplay when they separated, and she was written a best-selling book on coupling. Last, we've got Lisa Nichols, Jack Canfield. They come in and live stream in there, and people can ask them questions. We're in a privileged position now that we can make requests to some of these, let's put it in inverted commas, bigger names, and they come in and live stream, as well as the Expansion School has a whole plethora of learning materials, interviews, trainings for a cost-effective price. So www.expansionschool.com is you pay $14 for 14 days to see if it's a fit for you. At the end of that, you can say nope, or you can say, yeah, I'd like to stay, and it just rolls in. That's the best way to find and be with our work.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. For all of you who have tuned in for this episode, thank you so much for joining us in this space. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button on iTunes. We have a new podcast out every Wednesday where you will hear from different leaders, visionaries, truth seekers from all around the globe. And if your preference is YouTube, please hit the subscribe button there too. So much love to each and every single one of you, and I will see you for next week's episode. Until then, much love.